we'll talk a little bit about your history and education and obviously your role at Citrix. And then we'll get into questions. So Nikki from my team was going a little bit back and forth with some folks on your team. So we're going to talk obviously what you're doing at Citrix, but also talk a little bit about you as a person. Obviously want to hear about your likes and interests. I heard hiking is a big thing for you too, which is really awesome. And then that should get us through 30 minutes. And I would assume you probably have a hard stop at 30.
Yeah, something around 30 minutes will be perfect because that way, it kind of gets us in the groove of things. 30 minutes will be perfect.
Okay. Well, if everything's all set with you, I'll go on live on Facebook and we'll start the recording.
Sure.
Okay. Perfect. Hello, everyone. This is Joe Russo from Palm Beach Tech, and you're watching the South Florida Tech podcast live on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining today. We have a really awesome, amazing guest who is a little bit new to the South Florida tech industry, but no stranger to technology. So a brief about what we're talking about today. The South Florida Tech podcast is a weekly show where we bring you the awesome, innovative people building our South Florida tech community. Each week, we'll introduce you to one of the Sunshine State's top tech leaders, learn more about who they are, what they do, and have some fun conversations along the way. This is, of course, presented by the Palm Beach Tech Association, a nonprofit dedicated to building South Florida into a tech hub. And we would not be able to provide this without our friendly sponsor, Sales Message, a Delray Beach startup founded by Chris Brisson. In a time when most people aren't picking up their phones, text messages actually have a 99% open rate, and Sales Message works with a lot of companies all over the globe now to provide a two-way texting platform that gives a simple dashboard to send, receive, and manage text messages. So if you are interested in that, make sure you support a local startup and go to salesmessage.com. With that, I'd like to introduce our guest, Meera, the CIO of Citrix, one of the largest tech companies in Florida. She has a bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering and an MBA from Santa Clara University. She has gone down the list of some of the top tech companies where she's worked in leadership roles: ForcePoint, Quick, McAfee, Cisco, Infosys, Nortel, and with over 25 years of experience, has really done it all. Now she's the CIO at Citrix Systems based in Fort Lauderdale, where she has also been recognized as an industry and business leader with awards like Top 25 Women Leaders in Cybersecurity by the Software Report, the Stevie Award for Most Innovative Women of the Year in Technology, and Woman of Influence Award from the Silicon Valley Business Journal. I'm very pleased and excited to be joined by Meera. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Joe, for having me here. Really excited that now I live in.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about you and what you do. And obviously you're, I think, just a few months on the roll now with Citrix, right?
Yeah, it's my month number 4, and it feels like I've been here for a long time. And Florida is definitely, it's getting hotter. And I keep telling them, okay, is it summer already? People keep reminding me it's just the beginning of the spring, wait for the summer. So there's some adjustment with the weather I need to go through, I guess. But I've been in the tech industry, as you said, for 25 years. I was born, brought up in India. I moved to United States about 23 plus years now. And for job, I moved. Of course, I have a background in computer science and engineering. So I started my career in product engineering side as a software engineer. About 10 or so years, or maybe 12 years down the line, I had this epiphany of I want to be close to the business, but I don't want to leave technology. And IT felt like the perfect place to be because you are definitely leveraging technology. You're working across the business lines and you're getting close to the customers. And it's not just a single product. You're doing multiple different things. So I moved to IT, never looked back and said, why did I move? It's a fun journey for the last 15 plus years in IT, working for Cisco and McAfee and Click and ForcePoint, lastly, and now it's Citrix. My job at Citrix is really making sure that, we are providing the business infrastructure and also the capabilities our customers and partners need to do their business with the company. And most importantly, making sure every one of our employees are having a great experience and having a productive workday, right? So that's actually what we deliver to our customers. And my job is to make sure that I'm delivering to every one of the Citrites using our own solutions.
Awesome. So only 4 months, and you're obviously a little bit in the deep end already with everything going on, I imagine.
Absolutely. I think, sometimes adversity, there's nothing like a crisis that you need to, jump in with both feet. And this is our week number 5. The entire company is pretty much, I would say, everybody in the company is working remote. So when we have to make the decision, we have to really go quickly. That, as me as a leader, it's not something I have all the answers, and I'm only as strong as my team and also our cross-functional leaders. So we kind of did some preparation, right? I mean, when we anticipated things started in China, we did some scenario planning saying, if this happens to US, what's it going to look like? I mean, do we have, first of all, everybody has an endpoint, and more so we actually planned for other Asian countries immediately, because if we think about US, everybody has a laptop or desktop in some way. I mean, in a good way, Citrix, we are actually quite a virtual environment. So as long as you have your laptop or some kind of a desktop, you can log into our virtual desktops and you will be able to do your job without any disturbance or any change. Like, you don't even feel that you're in a different place, right? However, there are countries we have to say, okay, do you have one at home? If you just don't have it with you right now. And we started collecting spare laptops, and we did some rolling tests of different sites to see if we have to go remote, how it's going to work. So the scenario planning really helped me to ramp up. So when the first thing came, that overnight we made the decision, we're going to flip the switch for 10,000 people on a Friday. Monday morning, everybody is working remote. It didn't feel that drastic. There's a lot of hard work from the team members went behind the scenes in a quieter way.
Yeah, so you had a little bit of preparation going into it, and more than that, you had a system in place already that allowed people to work remote wherever they were in the company. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I would say you're never, as a leader, always hit the bullseye. In this case, we probably got a little bit lucky by doing our scenario planning ahead of time and doing some preparation, in anticipation if this happened. And also some of our own technology platform that allow us to be completely productive in a virtual environment, because our desktops, a lot of them use our virtual desktop and our virtual applications. So it doesn't matter where you are, you're actually logging into our cloud and you're working in our cloud. So the security becomes a much better place than when I have to manage your own, individual laptop and desktop in different parts of the world. So some of them were there, but it also, remember, it all has to work in cohesion. So we did actually look at when this came, we literally took a little bit of a methodical approach, saying 3 C's we need to focus on. Let's make sure we have connectivity right? I mean, we did expect the surge in network is going to go up, or VDI usage is going to go up. Not everybody always use VDI, but we expected when we go into this mode, more people will start leveraging VDI because it becomes the easier way instead of a VPN type of approach, right? So we expected that. So we looked at connectivity. What's the best things that we need? What things that we need to do to provide the best connectivity to our workforce? The second area we looked at was content. Once they connect, what do they want? They want to have access to data. They want to have access to application. They want to have access to information. So we looked at from our file shares to applications that normally people use, virtualizing them, etc. Right? The third one is, once you connect, you have your data you need, you work with others. You never work alone. So collaboration was our third pillar, and that ranges from audio video platforms to, I mean, we are having some gaps as we are working through and learning. Like, for example, we are actually looking at an accelerated way of, if you're going to have a virtual brainstorming session, there are some additional tools we can bring to the table. So we are right now looking at, what are the other tools apart from just a audio video conference and whiteboarding, what else we can bring to the table, right? I mean, last week we did a 3-day workshop completely virtual with over 30 plus people all over the globe. And it's a workshop of with the virtual stickies and whiteboard and everything. So it's a new way people are learning to work, but it does work.
So, how have you, I think, how have you tactically been able to work with your teams? Like, is there a certain cadence that you've found in meetings or conversations, or maybe a tool that might have been unused before that you're like, this is a good way to keep everybody moving
Yeah,
forward?
I think the one thing, actually, it was funny. I can't take credit for this statement. One of my team leaders said, when I said last week, okay, let's step back and reflect. What did we learn? It's a month in. What did we learn? What is this that we did well? It has to be the DNA as we are moving as an IT organization. And someone said IT became less mechanical, more human. And I thought that was very insightful. Because a lot of times you see, whether it's IT or any technology organizations, we get so wrapped up around tool, we get so wrapped up around processes. We'll say, okay, go to this tool and put a ticket for me, and my SLA is blah, 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 right? When this situation came, I just started thinking everybody is going to have worst experience. So we were actually leaning in and really making sure that we are providing everything to compensate things that are not going to be right, right? And that made people to connect as a person to person rather than, hey, I'm a service provider, you tell me, here is my process, less human to more human, right? So to me, that's not only with our business, partners and our internal and external customers, it's also with the team. I do see, teams are doing more check-in. I mean, today we had a quick check-in with one of my sub teams, and we're talking about, okay, let's just have a team event. I mean, a virtual potluck maybe, and we will have a little competition on people posting their recipe, and we'll do a cookout, and let's have people vote on it, and that could be a little nice competition to do, right? I mean, there are ways. Of course, I'm going to say that because we are social animals. At some point in time, we do need that physical touch. That's actually going to be required. But when I think about it, do we all need to be together in all the time the way we work? Only that's how we can be productive. I think we are setting some new norms that probably is going to change the future of work, and especially for technology workers, and especially with the talent shortage that we struggle with today. It opens up the opportunity to really get people from productive from any part of the world.
Yeah, and a good thing for your team, if I was on that cookout, I'd probably win based off of my my skills. I think a lot of people have found some more unique things about themselves and working remotely. I mean, me, I found out I could cook a lot better than most times I figured. But there's I think a lot of ways we found more unique ways of working. But
Yeah.
going to your Citrix works with and supports so many companies and so many IT departments out there. I mean, I can't think to know the number of tools out there and that Citrix is supporting people with. But how is Citrix as a company really helping IT companies and really any companies stay sustainable at this time?
Yeah. I mean, I think more than ever for me, it's very humbling and rewarding to be in a company like Citrix, because we are in the business of, business continuity and employee experience, employee productivity, right? I mean, workforce productivity, right? So when I think about it, a lot of our customers today, I mean, very humbling to see. Healthcare is one of our largest, quote unquote, industry segment. I mean, today we have been able to, in education is another. Just to give you a little example, the city of Corona, when they were hit hard, it's in California, they just get hit hard. I mean, it's kind of anomaly that the name of the city is also the name that we are all dealing with.
Yeah.
And we were able to get the city up and running in matter of days, because the entire city has to operate, and they have a crisis they need to manage in the city. And we were able to bring our infrastructure in the cloud up and running for them. And the city is operational without any productivity loss. On the flip side, when University of Sydney is another example that we were able to literally make a change when China was hit hard. they have to stop students coming from China into, the university. And, I didn't realize 40% of the students in Australia were Chinese students, Chinese national. Now you're saying you can't travel. What about education for these kids? So we actually chimed in, because there is a level of conferencing platforms, etc., that can allow. But if you're going to have a deeper, you need to provide them a lab environment. You need to provide them really a deep control environment. Conferencing cannot go beyond that, right? So in less than 7 days, the entire university was up and running as an online university, and we partnered with them. And so when you see something like this, now you're talking about thousands of students who would have been otherwise thinking about how they are going to get their graduation done on time, now or without any breakage or discontinuity. They're continuing their education from where they are today.
And Citrix makes that happen.
It's very, very humbling and rewarding. I mean, while I recognize there are other industries struggling, but at least, it's for me rewarding is we are able to make a change where they could continue their business operations.
So that's probably a good transition to this question. But what inspires you to go to work every day and do what you do for so many people?
For me, when I think about what inspires me, for me, really, making an impact from both people and business is what impacts me. I mean, every time when I choose job, I've been I look at the purpose of the company quite closely. I mean, at the end of the day, we all want to get paid, but that's good. I get paid, but that's only so far. And for me, the real most important thing is when I go to work, am I making a difference? And am I making a difference to the people who are going to be working with me and working in my organization, right? And that's what really motivates me. So what even motivated me with Citrix is I saw the problem they're trying to solve, because I'm a living example of, they're actually selling to the CIOs and the infrastructure people who are trying to solve the workforce productivity problem in HR, right? So I'm a living example. I know it's a problem. We are frustrating people. So I wanted to be part of a company that could bring the delight for, if you kind of think about today, every business is somewhat technology business. I mean, there's a prediction I was reading today, by 2023, the business that are going to survive the most, or the business that are going to be excelling the most, will be 80% digital, regardless of the industry. 80% digital, which is actually, if you kind of think about 80% digital, that translates to people. It's not anymore. I mean, I'm not going to undermine that you're going to have manufacturing plants. They are going to be huge capital things. There are things that we still need, physical things. But in any company today, if you look at it, most of the companies, your human capital is the biggest expense. And if you can get the best out of them, you're not getting the best ROI. You can get a best yield out of a mission, but you can't treat people like mission. We are actually, how do I bring that delight? And if we can offer a solution, that made really sense to me. When I joined, before that, I used to work in security. So security is always near and dear to my heart, to protect people, protect our kids and all those things, right? So I look at the purpose, and then how can I really make an impact on my people? How can I grow them? And along with them, I grow. So continuous learning, that's what gets me out of the bed every day.
Well, with that, I would say arguably the toughest job in the world right now, aside from the healthcare workers that are on the front lines, is really being a parent. And, I've noted down here that you have a daughter who's also in the STEM fields and very successful. Could you share a little bit about her and a little bit about, what she's doing?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a proud mom of a 24-year-old, and she's a biomedical engineer, and she works in healthcare as well. She works for a company called Davita. They're in the dialysis business. They're a healthcare services business company. And she's very much like the same thing. I mean, she chose the field because she felt, she even tells me computer science is 2 degrees of separation, and she's much more close to her customers, which I agree with her. I hope someday it's crossed, and she really wants to be in the medical field. So this is a great place for her to be, and I'm very proud of her, super proud of her.
Yeah. And So you moved to South Florida from California, so I assume most of your family connections are still out that way, right?
Yeah, I took a little bit of a detour. I lived in Silicon Valley for 18 years, and then I moved to the Northeast for about 2 years, and then did another quick pit stop in Austin, Texas for 3 years before I moved to South Florida. So I kind of saw a little bit outside, but you're right when it comes to family and long time deep friends. It's all in California for me. I still have family. I also have family in Northeast. So when we moved to Northeast, it was a nice thing because we could do some time with the family in the Northeast. So that's kind of where my roots are.
Yeah.
Of course, I have my parents and my brother in India, so it's equally important.
Yeah, my parents are probably 10 minutes away right now, but they don't even want to. They're really stressing the social distancing thing.
I think it's good. It's important, right? I mean, for their sake and for your sake and kids' sake,
Yeah.
we need to keep that.
Yeah, but I still snuck by and dropped my mom flowers for Easter either way.
Oh, that's nice. Very sweet of you.
Didn't tell them because of the distancing thing. But going to that too, I've heard you're an avid traveler and you like to get out and see the world. And I'm curious what you enjoy doing. What brings you to travel, and how do you make that a part of your life?
I think as much as I love technology, there is every now and then I need to get a break from technology. So I try to hide away from technology. So the things I love are hiking or being in nature where there's no, typically I love places where there's no cell phone signal. That's becoming rarer and rarer.
Hmm.
The last one we were in Patagonia, very close to Antarctica, Chile part, which is the southern end of the Patagonia. And the telephone signal was like pretty much non-existent for almost, I would say, a good part of the time we were there, almost like 5 or 6 days in a place where we couldn't. I have to say those were my fun days because nobody could really keep me on. Okay, here is an issue. I do think, I mean, world goes on without you. I mean, we all think we are so important. We don't want to be that important. We want to be important, but we don't want to be that important. So for me, taking that kind of a break is super important because it regenerates you. It gets you creative. It gets you grounded, and it helps you to reflect. Reflection is a big piece of how we grow. So I love learning culture. I love learning. I mean, I normally don't go to places which are the most touristy. We try to go less travel places as much as possible. I love hiking, so that's actually a great way because you do definitely get a chance to go a lot of less travel. And also, I love long runs, which keep me in a meditative state all the time.
It was funny. Me and my roommate here, who's also an engineer, were thinking about doing a hike the other day, but all the parks are closed. So we found a mile of old railroad track that we hiked up and down that had been there for 100 years. That is literally 2 blocks away. But it's funny because now I'm thinking where I want to travel to next. But in reality, it's like, oh, there's something right there I've never seen. So
absolutely. I mean, my favorite actually till today, I've traveled around the world, but probably my favorite hike is always in Silicon Valley, which I hike every week. Every week. I mean, it is one of those places we connect as friends and we hike and run. That's why my normal weekend routine, and it's still the best.
Yeah. So where would you, when all this is over and you and your family can go anywhere, where's your next destination planning on being?
I have too many. That's actually really hard to pick one. I mean, there's one continent I have not been to, which is Antarctica. It's on my list, which I wanted to get someday. That definitely is a place I would love to go. But if I have to pick one, Amazon rainforest is one of my top thing. I haven't been.
Man, I mean, Antarctica and the Amazon, geez, you're going all in. That is awesome. I mean, there's got to be an AWS joke in there somewhere, but nothing's coming to mind just yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's as hard of a forest to maneuver as well. Once you get on AWS, it's not forest by itself.
So, two more questions here for you because we're almost out of time. Of all the places you've been, Silicon Valley, Austin, the Northeast, you've seen a lot of technology communities and a lot of tech industries. How do you think Florida compares or South Florida compares as a tech hub to some of the other places you've seen so far?
I mean, I want to be careful before I say this because I'm quite limited here. It's my month number 4, my first month I've been like traveling, so I have to be careful. I would say though, surprisingly, even though it's only just less than 4 months or just about 4 months, I've been involved and approached by so many different tech communities, right? I mean, you're one of them, and I was also involved in the CIO community that recently reached out to me. So I feel there is actually a lot of synergies of people who want to bring together and come together. And it also has some great schools around here. I mean, U Miami and a bunch of different schools around here. I think it is really, are we bringing the business? Because you need to bring the business. There is actually logistics and cruise line industry. Some of those are going to, I mean, because as I said, every industry is a technology industry. So you see a lot of technology work is done in an industry in digitizing, but purely as a tech company, like Silicon Valley, which is a tech hub, which is not a industry where tech is applied. For something like that, you need to have real tech companies to come. Do we really need that? Maybe, maybe not. But to me, if you're to, Austin is another one, right? I mean, they're growing as a tech hub. You're really seeing tech companies moving there or found there, and startups, right? I mean, startups is another one. There may be some opportunities there. And I can't say because my exposure is limited, but based on my exposure, I see a lot of technology work happening, but for other industries versus tech companies per se.
Gotcha. Would you have any call to action just yet for the South Florida tech industry and community of what we can do to help grow it?
I mean, I think you can go with an organic way. Also, you can look at it from, organic way to me is, okay, there are founders, entrepreneurs. How do we encourage them to, use it? I mean, South Florida has a great weather. When I say great weather, year round, there's not a lot of course, hurricane is one thing you need to worry about, but there's a lot of, access to talent is there. You have great weather, and it's also a hub when it comes to traveling global and things like that. So to me, are we attracting, because if you look at it, South Florida attracted people who want to retire. So that is actually a different population. Now you're talking about, you need to attract young people, and young people attracting will change because they are actually in a different phase of their life. They want to grow, they want to take risk, etc. So the risk appetite of the area changes completely. And the good news is, if you look at half of the board members on your Fortune 500 companies are in South Florida. So if we can attract young people to come here, there is phenomenal amount of wealth and phenomenal amount of expertise living here in South Florida who can help to grow.
Yeah. And with that too, there is one thing I did want to get in there, but you've obviously you've been very successful in an industry that is very male dominated. And, I'm curious what advice you would have to women who are trying to make their way in the tech industry right now, and, words of wisdom to follow along their career journey.
I'm not sure I call it wisdom, but I would say, to me, don't let anyone tell you what you can do and what you cannot do. But at the same time, really, really listen to all the opinions, but make your decision what is right for you, right? I mean, at the end of the day, when I have to be alone in the only women in the, not alone, the only women in the room, I never let that thought cross my mind to hold me back, because end of the day, you are at that table because you're equally qualified and you have the right to do what you want to do.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was really nice and neat to hear about you and hear about your journey here to South Florida. For those listening, thank you so much for joining. If you want to learn more about what our organization does, you can go to palmbeachtech.org. And if you'd like to join, there's a join now button on the top right. We also want to thank our producing sponsor who's going to produce this to get it on all the podcasts. That is Media Ops. They're the premier global media platform for tech communities like DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, and Container Journal. They're based right down here in Boca Raton, and they help us make this podcast happen. So thank you very much to our sponsors, and thank you very much to Meera for joining us.
Thank you, Joe. Very nice joining you here. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.